This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Merrifield, Bill Shirley, Jamaal Artis, and Mike Regalado. Bringing you anything and everything Bruin sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello, darkness, my old friend, I guess. You're listening to the What's Bruin Show. I'm your host, Jake Merrifield. Hope you enjoyed our new alternate intro.
It's moody up in here, Jake.
It really is.
It's moody.
You want to know how moody it is?
How moody is it, Jake?
I'm getting emails like this, and now I feel like F for F's sake. This is so stupid. So we're going into each season blind because all we get is transfers. The culture thing is iffy because it's a bunch of scholars that can't play at the highest collegiate level, and it won't matter because Butthead can't go off script. That was sent to us by our good friend Shame Dog in a moment of, depressed passion for the Bruins. I get the sense that a lot of people are feeling that way right now, Mikey.
White on white, translucent black apes, back on rack. Bela Lugosi's dead.
And it's over a loss to the Beavers that we,
Nice Beaver.
Yeah, this is the goth episode. And
at OSU. That's what happens when you throw 3 pick sixes in a row.
That's what happens when
That's
you throw
open
3 interceptions.
open up a game opening drive with with an interception each goddamn game.
That's what happens when you don't scheme for your personnel.
Oh my God!
This is when you have your running quarterback come in for a few takes and just run
break his friggin' sternum. That's
wall.
Sad. I'm so sad.
Bats have left the bell tower.
All right, well, hold on to that for a minute, Mike. Hold on.
By the way, everybody, I'm okay.
Mike's okay.
24 hours. Let it go.
Yeah.
Be like a goldfish.
We'll get to that, though. We'll get to Mike's depression in a minute. But yes, this is the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network. A lot of great shows on one great feed. On Twitter, at What's Bruin Show. Email. You can email me another sad or angry email like Seamus did. whatsbruinshow@gmail.com. whatsbruin.substack.com. YouTube. Go on YouTube and search What's Bruin Show. And yeah, we're getting a lot more subscribers on there. I like that. It's good. Keep helping us out on there.
I did want to ask you. I think you said
we're
that
never
we
going
had
live video.
No. Yeah. Do you have the names
Until
of those
we
people?
do.
Because we've had some new subscribers. A few in the last few weeks.
Well, on the Substack and on the Patreon, Carrie's our newest subscriber, and thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
We love you, Carrie.
Thank you.
You subscribed on the worst possible week when we're all just depressed, but that's okay. But anyways, you subscribe on the Substack, whatsbruin.substack.com. For extra bonus episodes and whatnot. You can subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/whatsbruinshow or just whatsbruinshow.com. Same deal. $2 a month, right, Mike?
$2.
Thank you. And like I said, the YouTube, just search What's Bruin Show on YouTube and we'll come up. A lot of good stuff on there. Every show, What's Bruin Show, we're published up there. And of course, you can call the hotline. We got a bunch of calls in the post game for the OSU game. Damn Beavers.
Nice Beaver.
And we got a bunch of calls tonight.
Undead.
They're very depressing. Just like Mike over there doing his song. But that number is 805-399-4WBS.
Suck it right now, Troy.
Although I am going to dinner with them tomorrow. And guess who had a worse weekend than the Bruins?
Oh, God.
The Trojans did.
Right?
So they're already like Fire Lincoln
Right?
Riley. I still don't
dear.
understand that math, but I mean, they're on like Fire Lincoln Riley.
Really, I haven't really paid attention to Trojan Twitter. Is it Fire Lincoln Riley?
Bonkers right now.
Really?
It's insanity.
Really?
But,
there are a few Trojan fans that follow me that interact with me and very level-headed. I try to be. There are barbs back and forth, but for the most part,
sure.
I try to.
We have fun
and
with
we
it.
all do. Yeah, we have fun with it. We
That's
try
what it's
to
there for.
properly analyze. Like when UCLA goes up against USC, we're actually going to talk about how good or bad or what is going to be the strengths and weaknesses are. Either way. But yeah, I unfortunately haven't seen any of that. I'll delve into that, later tonight. But yeah, it's doom and gloom for UCLA fans. So I can just imagine what it is for USC.
All I'm saying is, a couple months ago, Trojan fans were like making some hay over, yeah, we're going to get Jarmond. Oh, hire Jarmond. Oh, Jarmond applied for a job at SC, blah, blah, blah. Well, hey, go ahead and fire Riley. We'll hire him. We'll hire him over here. That's fine. I take Lincoln Riley at this point.
Dan Tonlin stays. Grinch stays over there.
We're not on the. At least I'm not on the fire Chip Kelly wagon quite yet. We're only halfway through the season. But,
no. Like honestly.
But I'm just saying, if you want to fire Lincoln Riley, I mean, we'll give him a sniff. Like we'll
sure.
We'll try it. We'll take that for a test ride for sure.
Yeah. Hey girl.
That's how you guys are going to be.
Hey girl. We'll see how things are at the end of the season. Yes.
Anywho, call the hotline 805-394-WBS. We have a bunch of. Second Troy. We have a bunch of calls to come to your way in a a
This is gonna be fun.
Oh God, what is a shit?
The goth episode.
Just a shit week. This has been. Bruin wise. We got nonsense going on in my household. This is. My son just broke his finger again today.
Really?
In the same darn place. Now he might have to wear a cast for another 8 weeks.
Oh,
he was just getting ripped. Dude's like 13 years old and he has like a 12-pack.
Yeah.
Of abs, and
he's like an inch shorter than me and probably like 15 pounds.
He's
heavier.
just getting into beast mode, and now we've had a setback. I'm very sad about that. Anywho, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate your support, and without any more hullabaloo, Mike, do you have any headlines today?
No headlines.
No headlines.
Actually, I do.
Bro.
One quick
do
one.
you? Hold on.
One quick one.
Here's a Brooklyn headlines with Mike.
Two quick one. The UCLA men's basketball team, the AP preseason poll came out. They are roughly 28th in the nation. They are just outside the initial top 25 of the AP poll. They received 47 votes, which is the 28th most in the country, which is expected. They lose, just a solid core of guys like David Singleton, Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, Jalen Clark. So you lose all those guys. Yeah, you're going to get knocked down a few pegs. But great international class coming in. Great group of high schoolers coming in. Sebastian Mack is supposed to be a baller. I'm just saying.
Oh.
As for the women's preseason AP poll came out. Jake, do you know? If you don't, take a guess at where UCLA women's basketball is. They are in the top 25, so I'll give you that. Where is UCLA women's basketball?
25.
Little low.
Oh, 10.
Still low.
Whoa. Okay, let's move on up. 5.
Still too low.
What?
They are number 4. They're number 4 in the preseason AP poll.
Oh my God!
Right?
Holy smokes!
It's like, and we've been covering UCLA women's basketball, and it's
it's in the country.
In the country,
not in the Pac-12.
Which is weird because in the Pac-12 they were voted to finish second, and Utah is, I think they're 5th in the AP poll.
Oh my
so
goodness.
5th or 6th. But there's a lot of people that are looking at UCLA going, okay, I see what you can do. And yeah, they finished I think 14th last season. They went to the Sweet 16. They went to the Pac-12 championship game, and they're not only getting a lot of key contributors back from injury. They're getting Lauren Betts, who we've talked about was the number 1 recruit in the nation. Kiki Rice was the number 2, both of them in the 2022 cycle. So that's huge. You have Charisma Osborne coming back for her 5th year.
Bro.
And you just have a good mix of veteran leaders experience with some young youth talent. So yeah, I can see. It's going to be interesting to see if UCLA can maintain that.
So what's a successful season for women's basketball this season, Mike? Like, declare it right now.
This season, I would say Pac-12 championship.
Okay, then.
Pac-12 championship. And that's without... If they don't get a Pac-12 championship, Final Four. That's what I would say. With this roster, I think it is entirely possible.
Basically, you're saying they need something to show for it.
Yeah,
some sort of accomplishment,
they
whether it's
hardware.
a season-long accolade or a tournament accolade. They need something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because I could see them like maybe finishing 2nd or 3rd in the Pac-12. Because honestly, still the Pac-12 conference in women's basketball has been the best conference in the country for at least the last 8 years, and that continues to be. I think there are 6 teams from the Pac-12 RIP in the preseason rankings, so it's still going to be tough. Like the last few years, Stanford has taken over the Pac-12, but they've kind of fallen behind. They're still good, very talented, but they're
Stanford.
This UCLA team should be able to show what they're made of, and if they don't, that would be unfortunate. But if they were going to do anything, or if they were going to attack, this would be the year to do it.
All right. Well, with that being said, that's about as much basketball talk I can talk about. I can take in October. So, Mikey, is that the BRO-filiated headlines?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's get on with the depressing stuff then.
Blue 32, Blue 32, California, California, hood, hey! Football.
The game that was. Because love will tear us apart.
Man, yeah, will it, Mike?
Again.
Oh, jeez.
When routine bites hard. Sorry. We don't mean to go emo. That's not really
The
emo,
Bruins.
that's goth emo.
Mike always means to go emo goth.
No,
but that's
emo
all right.
sucks. Goth is that's where the money's at.
The Bruins go up to Corvallis with a good chance to win. Honestly, if all things were equal, I still if they were going to play the game tomorrow, I'd still pick the Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't go their way. In fact, they lost. They didn't lose by 2 or 4 or 6. They lost by 12. And that's after spotting the old Beavs.
Yeah.
Nice beaver.
13 points to start.
Yeah.
Giving them 7 more right before the half. But the Bruins fall 36-24 to those Beavs. And I gave you almost an hour post game on Sunday morning. You can go back and listen to that if you want for my thoughts. Mike was tweeting up a storm. Very sad, desperate thoughts, it seemed like to me. Enough to get eyeballs from the What's Bruin show and many others. But, Mikey, are you doing okay now? Have you reached some
24
sort of
hours. Let it go.
resolution with this game?
It was just.
What are your thoughts?
Well, if anybody that listens has Twitter, you know my thoughts on this. At least my initial reaction, which I stand by. There, I usually, whenever I say something, I try to be just honest and clear about it, and I try not to put too emotion. There was some emotion here, but it was mostly because of confusion in a way. It's like, and we'll talk about exactly why. Confusion,
Is this love?
Confusion with play
Or is
calling?
it confusion, Mike?
It's,
you tell me.
It's hey, love is confusing sometimes,
Yeah.
and confusion. Well, sometimes people are in love with that, but it's. And obviously, I'm not the only one. This has been a main theme with a lot of UCLA pundits. What do you do in this situation? And before I get into that, the whole Dante Moore thing, true freshman playing in Chip Kelly's system.
Turns
I
out
think
people don't know if they do anymore.
they don't, and a lot of people do. A lot of people are still positive. They're like, "Hey, he's the future," and then I'm thinking about, okay, fine, but who's the present? And that I got to thinking about how other schools not just build, but continue to have successful seasons. Alabama's, LSU's, Michigan's. If they lose a quarterback, there's one one waiting in the wing that could pick up the reins and just go. There's some rough patches, but for the most part, there seems to be like a lot of seamless transitions with a lot of quarterbacks, even with like offensive lines, running backs, stuff like that. How UCLA can go from being successful with DTR last season to having an almost inept offense this year with Dante Moore, and nothing against him. I tweeted this out early. Nothing against Dante Moore at all. The guy, he has talent, but it seems like he's kind of in over his head. I mean, he was playing in high school last year, and he's now expected to take on the burden of Chip Kelly's complex system, which can be successful at times, which is also a very run-heavy system that from what we've seen in the last few years. Is it the fact that Chip Kelly really thinks Dante Moore can do this? Is he positive that Dante Moore can do this in his system? Is it that he, is there other outlying factors? Like, there was talk in the preseason about how, would Dante Moore transfer if he doesn't start? Well, there are more questions now because, what do you do in this situation? Do you continue with this quarterback who, my famous quote, whatever offense scores more points? Well, if your offense isn't scoring any points, clearly you're not going to win. The defense.
So I think it's whatever offense manages to score more points.
That's a words to live by.
Absolutely.
The defense has been really good. why don't, one of two things hit me. If he's struggling, why not make a change at quarterback, which we'll get into because there's also stuff behind that as well. Or number two, why not scheme for his style? And a lot of the times too, that Dante was throwing a lot of passes in tight pressure. Like a lot of them, there was a lot of the receivers he was throwing to. There were defenders almost on them. He made some really good passes, but other times it was just like that just did not seem like a good decision. Again, I'm not crapping on the kid. He definitely has talent, and I think he'll be amazing, in the future. But right now, it's not working, and clearly we saw that. As you said, as everyone has talked about, 3 interceptions in the first quarter, 3 pick sixes in the last 3 games.
Rough.
It is rough, and again, if your offense doesn't score, you're not going to win. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, you gave us your thoughts, almost an hour's worth, but really quickly, summarize what you think about this situation.
Well, first of all, I do want to acknowledge where Mike was that night, right? And the tweet that he sent out that got so many eyeballs, including eyeballs from the What's Bruin Show Twitter account, and another tweet that said, Mike, to be honest, I think you are the most optimistic UCLA fan. And if this is happening to you, oh my gosh, Anyway, there have been plenty of positivity to account for, but at a certain point, even the most optimistic Bruin fan has to realize this is not working. The team has been winning, yes, but they've also had some very bad losses. This is not the way, to quote a Ugnaught that I do enjoy very much.
Yeah.
Mike, what was going through your mind at that point?
Just kind of like how I said right now, it's like this, it's not working. You have to figure out, okay, year 6 of the Chip Kelly era. It's no longer time to experiment. This isn't working, whatever it is that he's trying to prove. Unfortunately, other things might not be working too because of stuff behind the scenes. Should we just get into like the quarterbacks or, Well, okay, we'll get into that
Explain
too.
what you mean about it, and then we're going to get into the quarterback. So if you want to segue it into that.
At this point in Chip Kelly's tenure, he should be looking for W's rather than appeasing this player or that player or this player or that player.
And do we think that's what's going on? I could see how someone could draw a conclusion, but I also see a good argument against it too. We'll get to it in a minute.
No, exactly. Totally. But again, UCLA only scored 24 points. Yeah. They had a really good shot with when Colin Schlee got in there, mixing it up, and Oregon's defense having to go, whoa, what the hell? Wait, it's that quarterback? Oh, now it's him? Oh, now it's him again? Now it's him again? That was actually good. And then that got run into a wall. So, what do you do? It's just, again, it's not working. UCLA is 4-2. They could have easily won this game without some mistakes. They could have easily won the Utah game without some mistakes. They could easily be 3-0, but they're not. They're 1-2 in conference.
No, I think that's all well said, and it definitely makes sense what you're saying, Mike. At the same time, there is a little bit of retconning going on amongst the fan base and amongst the people talking about UCLA football right now, and that is Moore absolutely ran smack dab into a wall, not in game 1, 2, or 3, but when they opened the conference season, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been this, oh my God, he looks so great, up to against Utah. Oh my God, he looked horrible, but that was the best defense in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And then Washington State, oh yeah, he threw an interception, but they were good enough and they won that game.
Mm-hmm.
To this Oregon State, like really, he's done this 3 games in a row. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
So you can see the gradual slide into the abyss for what we're feeling about Dante Moore at this point in time.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, it's stark. Anybody saying, "Oh, I thought we should have started garbage from the beginning," or anybody saying, a lot of, all of those takes. Maybe you were saying that before the season started, but certainly after game 3, right, when he had come out, and these were his non-conference stats, everybody, as a true freshman. He came out and he was 63% basically, 600 yards, not even playing all 3 games, 12.1 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns to one interception, right? He was masterful in the non-con against, obviously, lesser competition. And so I think the bigger thing that's going on here is just the amount of time it's taken us to adjust to, okay, he's not a wonderkin that's just right out of the box, ready to go and face the most severe competition. right? To like, and now we're at, well, gee whiz, do we want this guy to stay on the field and get ruined possibly? I mean, I think that's an actual concern right now, but I don't think, I think it's very easy to see how we got here with Dante Moore playing these 3 games and any second guessing as far as like, should he have been the starter or not? Unless you were like hardcore, Garbers all the way through and never wavered, even after you saw Moore play those first 3 games, I don't think that argument really holds water for me. And to me, the biggest sin of this last 3, the opening of the conference season,
Chip Kelly
on Chip Kelly's hands is really what took us so long to mix in the Colin Schlee part of it. Because I think you're right, Mike. Like they could have been 3-0 to start the conference season. I think more likely, and we would all be much more satisfied and happy if they just would have split the Utah and the Oregon State game, 2 very winnable games. If maybe in the Utah game, you throw Schlee out there, get some instant offense going, or at least a changeup to loosen things up, and maybe you're able to struggle and win that game. Or let's say you don't. Let's say you get to Wazoo. Maybe you don't open up the Oregon State game, putting it all on Dante's hands when he has not shown that he's, after 2 games, not really able to, get it done at least early, right? That's the thing. That was the 2 biggest sins: not playing Schlee against Utah, and then putting too much on Dante early in that Oregon State game when it was obvious you had this huge advantage running the ball. I said on the post game, like if they just would have come out running the damn ball, they're not in a 13-0 hole. That game is completely different. And I honestly believe if you line that game up 10 times, I think the Bruins win 8 of them. I think they're that good. And if they just go in there with a proper game plan and don't gift the Beavs, 13 to 17 points or whatever, 13 to 20 points. So that's where I'm at. Like, I completely understand why Dante Moore started these 3 games. I completely understand why he didn't go away from Dante Moore. But now we're at this crossroads where it's like, well, do you give him another start? And do you give him another start? Right? And I kind of feel like, or first of all, Mike, what do you think about, should they start Dante Moore in this game against Stanford? Well, and by the way, we're assuming there's no more Schlee, right? At least for the time being. We're assuming he's on the shelf.
Per sources, per Tracy Pearson, he has a broken sternum. So not confirmed.
Regalado.
Not confirmed, but
Per Tracy?
So
Mike Regalado.
he's out.
Okay, so we think that he's out.
Yes.
Okay, so then if you're not going to play Moore, who does that mean? Who's going to play then?
Well, it's probably not Garbers because today...
Why wouldn't it be Garbers?
Per sources, per Tracy Pearson, on one of the 3-point
Mike Regalado.
pieces that he does on Bruin Report Online, he also said that Ethan Garbers, who's already played 4 games this season, which that's the amount of games you can play to retain your red shirt.
Yeah, and people remember him passing, but he also was like a holder.
Placeholder. Placeholder for for kicks. He wants to retain his red shirt for either because he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. He wants to retain his red shirt for UCLA
or
somewhere else.
And who could blame him at this point?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at first, when I first heard that, I'm like, wait, he only played in 1 game. But then when you talk about, he's been in for 4.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's where the rubber meets the road on that one.
And that's the thing. So at that point, Schlee's out. Garbers is potentially out. Could think there's depth at UCLA's quarterback
All-American
position.
academic Chase Griffin?
Chase Griffin is an option, and so is Justin Martin, who is he's a bit of a he to me looks the most like DTR. So I mean,
but there's literally no.
There are options
you could,
but the options are minimal.
If you're saying that Garbers is out and Schlee's out, right? And you say, well, Chase Griffin, we've seen him. We know that he can manage a game, but that there are severe limitations to him being out on the field, right?
Yeah.
But at least we've seen him in some games.
Yeah.
Justin Martin is every bit like completely unproven.
Exactly.
In regards to him versus Moore, and if you went with Moore, Garbers, Schlee above Martin before, this gets back to, look, we know how bad Moore has looked so far. But if you're telling me that we don't have Garbers or Schlee to start, I don't see how you don't start Moore in the next few games, especially given a few circumstances. Number one, the defense of Stanford and Colorado are not the defenses of Wazoo, Oregon State, and certainly Utah.
Yeah.
So there should, quote unquote, should be a relief there coming, and it should give him the opportunity to play a little more like the non-conference season and a little less like what his regular season has been like so far.
Yeah.
So that would, to me, is the most convincing argument why we still do want some more.
Exactly.
If-
and
well,
one
I'm
of the
sorry.
main factors, just really quickly, is they are playing against Stanford. I would say it would be a different story if another,
Suck it, Stanford.
we're going to talk to Hank Waddles of GoMightyCard.
Yeah, Hank.
Suck it, Stanford.
And he had a lot to say, especially after their great comeback.
You know what he didn't
against
say?
Colorado, huh?
Suck it, Stanford.
He did
But
not.
that's okay.
He
We
did
said
not.
it for him.
He did not. Yeah, so not a great defense, which could be a stepping stone for Dante Moore to have a better game, to improve, to gain confidence again. But
We don't want to take for granted they're going on the road to Stanford, and Stanford just had the
Yeah,
most epic comeback in
exactly.
like pretty much their history.
Yeah.
And they were kind of gamers against Arizona, who's apparently a decent team now.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to take that for granted. We've all been
No,
to the
God, no.
farm and suffered horrible losses.
Yeah.
But I mean, the odds say that Stanford's defense isn't as good as the last 3 opponents you've played.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think ESPN has UCLA winning this by 83%.
Something like that. We'll get to that in a minute.
It has
Yeah.
an 83% chance of winning. But the other thing I was going to say, you talked about Chase Griffin. In what we've seen Chase Griffin in that COVID year, there were a few games, and this is what would kind of make me feel a little bit better if Griffin were to play, start, backup, whatever it is. Not the best passer. His arm wasn't as strong as DTR.
His
But-
arm wasn't as strong as fill in the blank. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You can literally say
Okay.
one of 1,000 things. It's okay. I love Chase.
He's a
but,
better
I mean,
arm than me. But
definitely.
he did a very good job of control of directing
Managing.
the offense, especially when they ran the ball. And what did UCLA need to do? And they were fairly successful at against Oregon State, running the ball.
Mike, you just said something on par with this.
So I think it's whatever offense manages to score more points.
You just said Chase Griffin is masterful at handing the ball off, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, I said that because I wanted to remind people, for those that maybe didn't remember what Chase Griffin is able to do. He was very masterful at running UCLA's offense that was run oriented.
No, he was fine, right? And he managed to keep them in some games.
Yeah.
Almost gave him a chance to win at Autzen, I want to say, against the Ducks.
Yes.
Against
That's the one I was
Mighty
thinking of.
Ducks. Yeah. These guys.
Have you guys ever seen a flock of ducks flying in perfect formation?
I think he also had
But-
some success in that Stanford game, the last game of the season, although they lost on.
Don't get me started about
Right,
that
don't
goddamn
get
Stanford.
started.
We're in Stanford week.
Whatever,
You can't bring up that
goddamn-
goddamn game.
Suck it, Stanford.
Mike,
They're
I'm
gonna-
still having nightmares.
Art
That's the
Segal-
last time we lost those bastards.
Art Segal Whiteside.
Oh, God. Shut up. Shut up. Just shut up.
Just nightmares.
Okay, Mike. So
ghost is dead.
I think that I think that we're really getting down to the crux of it, right? And that is we're not starting Garbers, we're not starting Cloudsley, which you could see why they might be given the nod in a perfect situation, right? This
Yeah.
would be the time to do it if you're going to. However, given that those are out, right? And that you're either starting Dante Moore, you're starting Justin Martin, or you're starting Chase Griffin.
Yeah.
Mike, who do you start in this game against Stanford?
Well,
What's
here's
your call?
here's another thing really quickly I wanted to tell you. This week, since Colin Schley was not at practice during the media session, and Chase Griffin was his scout jersey was removed for a practice jersey.
Yeah.
So there's that. So the three quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, we just listed 3 quarterbacks. You generally
Yeah.
want 3 in a game, so there you go.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Ethan Garbers is whether this decision is right or not, he's still one of the top 3 quarterbacks.
This is all consistent. Well, I mean, it doesn't sound like he is now, right? So it sounds like that's
behind the
consistent
scenes stuff,
with
yeah.
what
Bro.
Father Tracy Pearson
Mike Regalado.
said, right? It's consistent with that. So it all is kind of fitting together. Yeah, right. The bro father. Does anybody-
the bro.
Has anybody ever called him that?
Oh, no, but I'm gonna tell him that.
All right, we'll start again. The bro father. Anyways, so okay, back to the question, Mike.
Uh-huh.
So you don't have Chase Griffin. I mean, you don't have Ethan Garbers. You don't have Colin Schley. You do have Dante Moore.
Uh-huh.
Do you want more? Where'd it go? Right there. You have Justin Martin. You have Chase Griffin. Who's starting against Stanford up on the farm
Dante Moore.
this Saturday? That's what I thought, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what you can say, though, is you have to have a strategy for what happens if he has a really bad start to a game again, right? You
exactly.
can't leave him out there for the whole game, I don't
And
think.
that's the weird thing. You have to actually game plan for him to potentially have a bad game.
Yeah, you really do. Like, and this goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, in that you can reasonably see how we got to this point. Like, look, I'm sure the most pessimistic of Chip Kelly critics will say, "Oh, hell no, you should have known this from the beginning," and "Oh my gosh, it's so terrible." But I mean, I can really see how we all collectively got to this point with Moore, because really it was like we all have whiplash from how he played in the non-con versus how he's played in conference season. And I'll just really quickly run down those stats again. In non-conference games, 12.1 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 205 quarterback rating. In conference games, it's all basically cut in half or worse. Went from 12.1 yards per attempt to 6.2 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
Bottoming out at Oregon with like 4.7, right? He went from 7 touchdowns to 3 touchdowns in 3 games. And he went from 1 interception to 6. And by the way, threw 3 touchdowns to the other team. So, I mean, that's how we got to where we're at. But given what we know now, I agree with you, Mike. I don't think you can do anything but start him, and I think that's the proper thing to do at this point. Given the choice that was made to go with him into the season, but you absolutely have to have a contingency plan in case he comes up and he's not playing well again. And at that point, Mike, the next question is: we assume they're going to start more. How do you like it? But if he struggles again. Now, I'm hoping, I know you're hoping, I think we're all expecting him to play better against Stanford's Stanford defense this year. But let's say he doesn't. And let's say Stanford is still playing like they played in the second half against Colorado. That Colorado swaying right into a loss. But who do you go with next then? Who comes off the bench? Chase Griffin, Justin Martin. I know what I think. What do you think, Mikey?
I think you'd have to put Chase Griffin.
I agree.
Just because
I completely agree.
Experience.
That's the
he's
guy's
been
got
there.
experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. And especially, like I said, if you want to focus on the run game, if things are just not working in the passing game, and you need to shift even more to the run game, he's the guy to do it.
No, and I think also, I think in a pinch in a game, let's say that Moore is struggling, and now all of a sudden you go to not Garbers to Chase Griffin, right? And for this game, assuming they can pull out the win, then after that game is over, if you have benched Moore for Chase Griffin, then I wonder. And I don't want to go down this dark path. This is truly the darkest timeline. But then I think you open up the job completely again, and now it's like, well, who do you start? Obviously, if Schlee is hurt, he's not playing. But then it's like, well, does Garber say, well, maybe I will throw off that red shirt again and give it a go for the final games, right? But I don't think he's the first one you go to if he's requesting not to get into the games.
Yeah.
But, I wonder, after 7 games of a season, 5 games left, home stretch for the Bruins, if Moore is benched, does Garbers then say, oh, well, maybe I will, I choose to play, or something like that? Or then do you open up the competition between Martin and Griffin and Moore at that point, which would be an absolute circus in the back half of your conference season, having quarterback competition with 2 freshmen and an 80th year senior. But I mean,
and you bring up a good point too, because if these last 3 games were the first 3 games of the season, and you have this, and those are the 2 things that are putting the wrench in the system. Colin Schlee is out, and Garbers wants to retain his redshirt season. But
by the way, who can blame him?
We're getting into Game 7, as you said. But if this was the first 3 games where Moore struggled direly, and we're going into Game 4 into conference season, that's an easier probably decision for. And let's say the circumstances are the same. Colin Schlee injures himself in Game 3, and so Ethan Garbers is there, only has played 3 games. If they're going to make the switch to him, that's an easier decision for Garbers to say, okay, well, if it's my turn to step up, let's do it.
I will say this, the way that I see it going, we're saying all this stuff, and this is some darkest timeline sort of shit. It's like,
and
oh
it's
my
all
gosh,
speculative.
you're
This
5
isn't
stars
official
benched.
stuff. Yeah,
It's not at all.
It's not official at all.
We're just saying, assuming how he's played the last 3 games,
Hypotheticals.
your 5-star gets benched, and then what happens? Is that what I expect to happen? No, it's not what I expect to happen, because I think that given the lightening of the schedule, at least for a couple games, right? Stanford and Colorado, at the very least, defensively, don't pose nearly the challenge for the Bruins that the last 3 teams did. And you're going on the road to the farm which is basically like going on, playing a game at the Rose Bowl as far as like the crowd enthusiasm and whatnot, right? Let's not make any, let's not get that confused. And then you're hosting Colorado in a nighttime game or a 4:30 game. That will be a big game for the Bruins, but the Buffs aren't anything special on defense at all. So there is a big opportunity, and I fully expect more to start and more to play better and to kind of turn the narrative around. Like he's got every opportunity to do that.
Especially on this stretch, because what is it? It's Stanford, Colorado at home, at Arizona, which will be tough. Arizona State at home, and then
SC
and Cal.
I mean, look, so there's not another tough-ish game until they go to Tucson, really. I mean, that's I think what we can kind of assume here.
Yeah. Like even that USC game is not that daunting.
Well, it's a big game, but
definitely.
And look, the one thing SC can do is they can get after the quarterback. So I mean, there's ways that could go wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But at least for the next two games, the competition should be lighting up a little bit. With all due respect to Second Stanford and to the Buffs, but Mike, given the way that Moore has played, and given the way that now Garbers doesn't want to play, no fault to him. You don't have Schlee. Griffin is there. What, maybe you said that Justin Martin's a little more mobile than Dante Moore, but you don't have Schlee. Maybe, I don't know if Kelly will have some plans now to maybe give Martin a chance to kind of mix in there. He doesn't have any games under his belt so far this season, does he?
No. Wait, no, did he play?
Didn't he play in one of the games?
He might have played in that North Carolina Central. We'll look at the stats right now. But no, you bring up a good point. And it's, here's another point I wanted to bring up really quickly.
Maybe give an opportunity.
As you look for those stats. Before the season, there was that, kind of narrative, which got people all up in a tizzy about, like, if Dante Moore doesn't start, he might transfer. Well, I mean, if you think about it now, like, he hasn't really put up some good stats. Will he transfer if you put in, Garbers for the rest of the season? If Garbers decides to do this, if you put in Chase Griffin, does Dante Moore go, you know what? Maybe I'll watch from the sidelines, get some games under my belt from a sideline perspective, and then come back strong next year. I mean, there are just so many questions that can be asked at this point in the season because of all the circumstances that have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, at this point, like I said, I think that Moore will have every opportunity to redeem himself. Mm-hmm. But the feelings we had before we ever saw him play versus the feelings that we have for him now, which, like I said, I still think he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, what if he transfers things? Well, some people are going to be like, well, okay, who cares? He just gave 21 points to the conference in the last 3 weeks. Like, that's not quite as big of a thing now at this point, I don't think. Although you could make the argument that, this is a botched situation by Kelly to a degree.
Yeah.
Although I don't think I would buy that argument because everything he's done so far, other than the goddamn the game planning in the OSU game, to me has been, has made sense to me at least, right?
Yeah.
Justin Martin's appeared in one game this year. So
he did,
so I wonder, so
he has some
given the
game
state,
experience.
maybe you give him like a little bit of a package like you did for Schlee if you think he can handle that. Once again, it's a guy with almost no experience, so I mean, you're not going to probably put him in serious jeopardy, and if you do, I don't know what you gain by it. But
yeah, exactly.
All right, Mike.
Yeah.
Can we flush this goddamn game against the Beavs for now?
Really quickly, I just want to do a quick 5 minutes or less.
No, please.
The defense. Do you think Oregon State exposed them a little?
No, not in the least. Like, why do you think they did, Mike?
Those last two touchdowns, which were right in between the safeties, which were they were almost similar plays where there was absolutely nobody near the guy, and it was like literally right between two defenders for easy touchdowns. Like the UCLA's run defense, I think did a pretty good job.
I think they did an excellent job.
Linebackers did
in key moments. They fucking got TFLs like crazy.
Yeah, no, exactly. We got another Latu sack, although it was a halfie, but I think the secondary just got we've been praising them. I'm not saying that they're world beaters. They're not the best secondary ever. I mean, it's going to be a little hard to go from really bad to really good in 1 year. They're improving, and that's what we want to see. But I think they did get a little bit exposed. Like, at least the Oregon State really looked at how to attack UCLA's defense, and still, even though it's improved, the weakness is the secondary.
I don't think that they were exposed at all. I still think
Okay,
they're
okay.
a very good defense, and I think that when you're talking about that specific criticism about the long plays down the middle of the field or whatever, it's like, look, you basically have dug them a hole 3 games in a row, and they came out and they beat the crap defensively out of Utah. And I know Utah didn't have their quarterback or whatever, but they beat the crap out of that team on the road. And the only reason that they gave up the points that they did was because UCLA gave them a short field, if I remember right, in that game. And then UCLA's offense gifted them 7 points, right? Then they come out against Washington State and completely shut down for the first time. They weren't copycatted like the Wildcats did, right? You have to still give them full credit for shutting down an offense that had been on fire all season up to that point and showed that they absolutely could shut down the passing game there, right, in a one-dimensional offense. And against the Beavs, look, the Beavs, the one thing you say about them, they're not the best rushing team and they're not the best passing team, but they're pretty good at both. And for most of that game, they held the Beavs down. And that's after the Bruins spotted them 13 points, gave them a horrible deficit at the half. And at that point, the Bruins have to expect that the Beavs are going to run the ball, drain the clock, all those things. And you're going to be susceptible because you're going to be taking some chances and all that. But even after that performance they had against the Beavs, the Bruins are still top 10 in the country in big plays, 30 yards or more.
Yeah.
Top 5 in the country in big plays, 20 yards or more. They're a good, disciplined defense. And just because Oregon State on 2 drives in the third quarter of that game got away with a little bit of something, right? And by the way, they're a good team too.
Yeah.
But that was 2 drives in the third quarter of that game, and the rest of the game, they played pretty freaking lights out almost the whole game. So no, if you keep putting your defense behind the 8 ball on the scoreboard, right, and doing things on offense that actively sabotages your defense, they're going to give up some points now and again. And I don't think the Oregon State game proved anything about them being exposed or anything like that. That was just us being so depressed at how the game was playing out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's there were just some just disconcerting plays that UCLA gave up,
Certainly.
and also doesn't help that there was a pick 6 in the mix, but the fact that they still gave up. I guess 29 points at that point. That the most that they've given up. In the 5 prior games, they did not allow more than 20 points, and in this one, they did. So, but again, it was against a very good offense.
Well, and also you just look at where they scored from. I already talked about how in the third quarter, those were long drives, like a 60-yard drive and an 80-yard drive, very quick strike, 2 plays and 4 plays. And, I think that goes down to what the score is on the scoreboard, how they're having to play defense given that they're 13 points down, and there's the pressure of that. But, I mean, when you look at 10 more, the points in the first half, they give up the first 3 when they spot the ball on the 30 for the Beavs, right? And the defense holds them, and they kick a field goal. The second score, they get it at the UCLA 20, and they score a touchdown. But you can't give teams field position like that consistently and expect your defense to hold up every single
That's
time.
true.
So, I mean, just circumstantially in that game, I think that's why the Beavs scored the points they did. And let's not forget, you take away the pick 6, now all of a sudden it's 29 points. You take away 2 of those turnovers, and they scored around 20 points when they actually had to drive the field.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the game plan. You're passing it. If you're just playing ball control and making them drive the field, I have full confidence that this defense can hold teams to field goals instead of touchdowns for the most part, make some big plays, get turnovers. But they weren't given that opportunity in this game against the Beavers.
Yeah.
They were spotting the ball, inside the 30 and saying stop them. And then, later in the game when they start to break down, when you're already 2 touchdowns down, I mean, to me, I want a more even game script before I make any grand conclusions about what this defense isn't, because I think we've seen what the defense is so far, and I think we should have confidence in that.
Yeah. And one last thing, one quick last thing.
Oh my God, Mike, this game! Come on, man, we got to get to the chopper on this goddamn game.
Colson Yankoff.
Oh yeah, Colson.
Great lead
Four-string
blocker.
QB? Oh,
I actually thought about that too. We need a speedy returner. That's it. That was my. He's fast. I understand that.
That has been the universal
I think
appeal.
we need a smaller, quicker.
I can't argue with you because they haven't
Returner.
really got any returns.
Exactly. Exactly.
They haven't
That's it.
fumbled
That's all I'm
any,
gonna
but they
say.
haven't got
That's
any
all I'm gonna
returns.
say.
I think that's fine.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
You're not the only voice
That's it.
saying
That's all I'm
that one,
saying.
buddy. I
That's
get
all
it.
I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
All right, let's get to the symposium then.
Do you think we drink too much?
No, we don't drink too much. Men face reality, women don't. That's why men need to drink.
I hate it when podcasters talk about what they're drinking.
What else am I gonna drink, Bob? A fucking Fresca?
Thank you for joining the What's Bruin Symposium. Conversation over drinks is what a symposium is, and that's what me and Mike are doing. Mikey, you brought over a 6-pack of beer. What are you drinking?
I was trying to rest in peace, Anchor Steam. Damn you, COVID, for taking out. I don't know if COVID was the reason that Anchor Steam Brewing Company out of San Francisco, California, kicked the bucket this year. I was trying to see if there were any left. I could not find any, so I found this other one, which I haven't had in a while. Great White. Where are they from? Lost Coast Brewery. Just another great summer beer because it's still freaking summer here, Jake. What the hell? Sick of this.
Pretty warm.
Sweater weather. It's supposed to be sweater weather. It's fall. We got hockey, basketball.
Your brain is in Philly, Mike.
Yeah, pretty much. And Minnesota. And
Minnesota.
Denver. And Seattle. I'm thinking about Seattle. I
there you
want to
go.
go to Seattle.
I like Seattle.
I told Colbernos, I was like, hey, what do you think about going to Portland for winter break? And he's
That's
like,
not Seattle. That's Portland.
no, I know. Pacific Northwest. I love it. And he's like, why? Give me details. I'm like, all right. I'm just thinking. Just thinking out loud. Thinking out loud. But anyway, yeah, no, it's still pretty hot. So I wanted a chill beer. I actually saw a stout up at the liquor store that I was at, and I was like, no, it's not cold enough. So yeah, I went with the lighter ale. So what do you have?
I'm drinking an actually inexpensive bottle of very good bourbon that I got from the coach of the Grizzlies, Jerry Person. Love him to death. San Diego State, former San Diego State center. It's $17.92, small batch, and it's bourbon. It's 46.8% alcohol by volume, which makes it 93.7% proof. And it's just a good tasting bourbon. And if you go to Total Wine, this thing's like $25 a bottle. So I highly recommend it. It's a nice looking bottle too. It's not your tall bourbon bottle. It's more of a almost square shaped, Mike. I mean, how would you describe the shape of this bottle? I like it.
It's kind of like a curvish trapezoid.
There you go. Right, just like Mike
Ish.
said. Yeah. But
Is that a thing?
$17.92. Nothing, like I said, nothing pricey. But you taste it, and it tastes pretty darn good to me. So that's what I'm enjoying tonight. Thank you very much for joining the symposium. Conversation over drinks, and we appreciate your support for how much, Mike?
$2.
Just $2 a month. You can send the What's Bruin Show into the future by subscribing at patreon.com/What's Bruin Show or what'sbruinshow.com or at the Substack, what'sbruin.substack.com. You subscribe and you'll get some bonus shows like my mall casts that I'll do periodically throughout the football season, or we might do some What's Bruin After Darks where we get a little weird with it in the off season. And you also get access to the Slack channel. Our newest guest to the Slack channel is Carrie, but there's a bunch of lively discussions. There's a lively discussion on the Slack channel right now. In fact, I happen to be dictating because I left my phone. I was about to text something to reply to our friend Dave, the creator of the logo of the What's Bruin Show. And Mike, you look at this. I actually left my dictation button on my Slack feed, so I might.
Oh, you're.
Because you just publish this right now and be like, "Yeah, this is me talking."
Like, what
into
the hell are you
it on the
talking
What's
about,
Bruin
Jake?
Show. So it's weird. So I'm gonna publish that right now. Let's see how long that post is. Oh wow, that's long. But anyways, our Slack channel is pretty fun during game days, and then even the days leading up to games. Dave, the creator of the What's Bruin Show logo, was just asking. Because UCLA is making a big deal about the Colorado game being sold out, quote unquote, and he was asking the question: is this a sellout or a tarp sellout?
It's a tarp sellout.
It's definitely a tarp sellout, right?
They are I think it was Ben Bolch that put it out there. They're removing 3 of the 8 tarps that are currently there at the Rose Bowl.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well, still a tarp sellout though.
Oh yeah.
But anywho, we want to thank you guys for supporting the What's Bruin Show. You can subscribe for how much, Mike?
$2.
As little as $2 a month on Patreon, or a little bit more on Substack, and we thank you for your support.
Blue 32, Blue 32, California, California, hey! Football. It's the game that will be. It's the game that will be, yo. It's the game that will be.
All right, UCLA will play the Stanford Cardinal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're playing them this Saturday, the Rose Bowl. 10:21. I'm sorry, not the Rose Bowl. They're playing them up on the farm.
Are we still in goth mode? You sound like you're in goth mode.
I know. I'm just.
Right.
I'm going to go to this game. I'm driving up. Me and Malcolm are going to drive up. We're going to pick up Megan. We're going to go to the farm, watch this game. The last time I was at a Stanford game was with Megan when the Bruins lost in the Pac-12 title game against Stanford in those back-to-back Stanford loss weeks. And Jim Mora, week 1 or year 1. So I've been up to the farm since then.
God.
This game will be at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN.
I hear it's nice and empty.
Yeah, well, I hope so. We'll see. I know after that epic comeback Stanford just had, who knows? The Bruins.
That was a good. Ending.
Per ESPN win predictor,
85%
chance of winning this game.
Yep.
They are currently a 17-point favorite. It's an over/under of 53. So I don't know, whatever that makes that. That makes it like, I don't know, it sounds like a 30-ish, 28-ish to whatever-ish spread. Yeah. Bill Connolly has the Bruins as a 88% chance favorite. And his statistical model calls the Bruins a 37-16 favorite in this game, which makes the Bruins a 16.5-point favorite. And really, there's really no reason why the Bruins shouldn't win this game.
Yeah.
Honestly, Mike. We're going to talk to Hank Waddles in just a minute. But before we do that, we'll do a quick batch of trivia time. But we're going up there to get well.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly is once again at 500. 31 up, 31 down.
Yeah.
Is it 31? It's more than 31.
31 and 31.
Is it 31? God, it's depressing. 31 up, 31 down. And we're going to go up there to get a win on the farm. So let's get to trivia.
Now it's time for Jake's Trivia, brought to you by Jake, bringing you all the coolest trivia of UCLA football's opponent for this coming week. And now, Jake.
The Bruins come into this final game against Stanford in the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8. I think it goes back to the PCC or whatever. They've played Stanford 40, 80, like
million times.
A lot of times. There are 48 wins, 43 losses, and 3 ties. The Bruins are on a 2-game winning streak, and they've won 3 out of the last 4. But before that, they lost a lot.
Yeah.
Like 11, 12 times or whatever. Yeah. It's funny when you look at the graph of UCLA versus Stanford. Stanford wins a whole lot early, like in the the teens and the 20s, the 19 teens, the 1920s. And then they lose a whole lot, from the 40s all the way up to the aughts. And then they kind of take over again. And now the Bruins have, like I said, they won 3 out of 4. But that was a long stretch of just absolute shit versus Stanford.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just remember that.
I'm trying to forget. And actually, the last 3 seasons, albeit there was that one COVID loss, little bit of redemption. It feels a little bit better. But it also comes on different trajectories in which UCLA has been better while Stanford has gotten worse. And
the last 4 years.
Exactly.
Well, let's remember, like I just mentioned it, 2012, last time I was on the farm, UCLA loses 27-24 to Stanford. Yeah. I think there's a missed field goal involved with that. Me and Megan went up there. She was like in the 4th grade. Really fun trip. Sad trip, too. Who knew that she would, in her future, would be a golden bear and saying, suck at Stanford on the regular.
Suck at Stanford.
31-10 and 56-35. David Shaw over Jim Mora. Just ugly games, in which the Bruins were pretty good, but not good enough to compete with old Stanford. Actually, it was 24-10 and 31-10. The 56-35 was. Remember Josh Mora's game or
Josh Rosen?
Josh Mora.
I was just
Josh
thinking
Rosen's
about that.
game.
I was just thinking about that.
22-13.
Wow.
They're winning that game until they weren't.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was a terrible game. Oh Lord. And then the most recent is terrible game against Stanford. You mentioned it earlier, Mike. 48-47 at the Rose Bowl in front of nobody.
Yeah.
The Bruins, all they had to do to win that game, to have the first winning season under Chip Kelly, was win that stupid Stanford game. Yeah. But did they?
Under Chip Kelly?
Yeah. It would have been the first winning season under Chip Kelly. COVID, they would have gone 4-3 instead of going 3-4.
Yeah.
And did they win that game?
They did not.
They did not. In fact, they lost 2 horrible shootouts back to back to end the COVID season.
Yeah.
To where, once again, the thing with us Bruins fans is
COVID sucks.
to get our Kelly boner going and then have it just suddenly deflated.
Wear a mask, you jerks.
It sucks. I don't know what that means, but it sucks. Anyways, Mike, that's your trivia for today.
Yeah.
Let's get to the game, and we have a special presentation for the game, and
Mm-hmm.
that is an interview with good old Hank Waddles of GoMightyCard. So let's get to it.
With us on the What's Bruin hotline, we have Hank Waddles of GoMightyCard. He's been a guest here pretty much every year, and he's a guy that absolutely loves his Cardinal and gives great insight every time he comes on. Hank, thank you for joining us on the What's Bruin show.
Thanks very much. I'm happy to be here. It's always a fun time talking to you guys.
Well, let's get into it. You know, UCLA has Stanford this Saturday. But before that, there's been a little bit of bliss in Stanford land. Let me ask you about what happened last Friday. Describe your mindset and the journey through that game. And was it a Pac-12 after dark game for the ages?
You know, it was. I'm sure that probably no normal person actually watched that whole game. Excuse me, but it was a really amazing game to watch because. So for sure it was 29-0 at halftime, but it was a real 29-0. It wasn't like, there were a couple turnovers and things just kind of, got out of control. Like it was everything went right for Colorado. They looked really good. Stanford looked really bad. And it was, going into the game, there was talk already about how this might be one of the worst seasons or the worst season in the history of Stanford football. And then it was 29-0. Then it was 29-0. And it just was, it just was awful. And, after the game, there are things that came, that came out that, there was a clip of the Colorado coaches at halftime basically telling their starters that they needed to make sure that they played well so that the backups could play the entire fourth quarter, not just some of the fourth quarter.
Oh, wow.
So everybody saw the direction that this game was going, and then it completely changed. I don't know if I've seen a game change that much. And because it was so late at night, it was a 7:00 start, I believe. There were lots of Stanford fans who gave up because there hadn't been anything, not just in the first half, but there hadn't been anything really in the first 5 games of the season to indicate that something was going to happen. And, I kept watching just because I kind of have to. And because I just want to see these players. I'm looking for little nuggets of something. Right. And then all of a sudden they just start scoring touchdowns. And in the one sense it was lucky because Colorado, if they could have just gotten 1 or 2 more first downs over the course of the second half, it would have worked out for them. But also, Stanford scored every possession after halftime, after doing nothing in the first half.
Yeah, we saw your tweet about that. That was like absolutely nuts. The Stanford drives. I'll quote you on this. Yeah. First half, it was punt, missed field goal, downs, punt. After halftime, touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, field goal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and it was, and the other thing, over the course of the 2 hours of the second half and overtime, it was, the first touchdown. Like, here's what I remember vividly. Like, after that first touchdown, they went for 2 because they obviously wanted it to be 29-8. And I just thought, well, that's kind of adorable, right? Like you're trying to get on, you want it to be a 3-score game. Then the next touchdown and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, this almost looks like a game. And then there's the next touchdown. And you realize that this is a game. This is a game now, and then it just kept going. And it was that. You guys have been through this, right? Because UCLA had the only 2 bigger comebacks in Pac-12 history, right?
Yeah.
They were the 2 UCLA games,
the A&M and the Washington State,
and Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And so what that's like watching this game, where at first it's impossible, then improbable, and then suddenly it's, oh my God, I can't believe what's happening, right? And that's exactly how this played out. And for me, like, one of the best parts is knowing how many people were going to wake up after giving up at 29-0 and wake up to see that Stanford actually won this game. And I was, because it was a late game and because I was then like watched a chunk of it after the game finished, and then sat down to write my recap at like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 in the morning. Like I was still up as the East Coast was waking up to the score. So then I'm seeing all of these East Coast Stanford fans who are chiming in on Twitter, and it was fun. It was really fun. Like this is not a season that's going to end in the Rose Bowl, but that Saturday game was, the Friday night game just was. It was like a Rose Bowl in that sense that that's what is giving this season some meaning, some enjoyment, because it was amazing.
Yeah. One more thing. I do remember the Washington State game and the A&M game, and how you're describing it is exactly right. And there's just like no feeling like it, because from the lowest of lows, the highest of highs, obviously. One thing I want to ask you about is the dude, when I saw the stat line, and, you know, like you said, almost nobody watched this game live unless you were a Stanford fan or a Colorado fan. I watched the first half, turned it off for a quarter, saw the score coming back, and then I turned back on and watched the fourth quarter and then overtime. But Eric Ayamanor, is that how I pronounce his name?
Ayamanor, yeah.
Yeah,
Alec Ayamanor. Yep.
Yeah, he drops 300 yards receiving in a game, and I looked at that, I'm like, my God, what record did he break, right? Because how many times do you see a 300-yard receiving game? And it turns out I was really happy he had that game against Colorado, because he took away one of my, or he didn't take it away, but he broke the record from one of my least favorite Bruin Stanford memories. That's 1999 when another Stanford player dropped like 285 or something. But what was it like watching a dude, catch 300 yards and passes? That's just insane.
Well, the most insane part of that is that he had 0 yards receiving at halftime. So he had 294 yards receiving in the second half.
Yes, I think I saw that. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's bonkers.
And it wasn't a situation where, sometimes in the old days, like you could pad stats in overtime, right? When we used to have these 5 overtime games, he had 30 yards receiving in overtime. One of the most phenomenal catches. There are a lot of parallels here because, he caught this ball off the back of Travis Hunter's head, which some of your listeners might remember. Stanford's Francis Owusu doing the same thing
a little bit
against UCLA.
Yeah,
right?
Hank, we remember. Thanks a lot.
Try to forget.
I'm not done. Because then there's also you'll remember watching that second half. It was, and I tweeted this out too. It was really reminding me of Simi Fajoko's game against UCLA. I think it was like in the empty Rose Bowl during pandemic. Oh yeah, if I'm remembering right. Another overtime game, and where Fajoko had maybe 250 yards receiving, something like that. And it was, what was amazing, and you guys will get a good look at the Colorado defense in a couple of weeks. It's not a great defense, obviously. And so, but one of the things, everybody knew that it's going to Ayamanor, because he's just having this phenomenal half. Yes, he had one, he had a 97-yard touchdown and he had a 60-yard touchdown, but, he had 11 other catches. And so even if you take out those 2 long plays, 11 catches and a half, that's some serious work, right?
Absolutely.
And there was the game-tying drive. They went to him, over and over and over again. They actually ran the same play 3 times in a row, 4 out of 5 plays. Just he lined up in the slot, or sometimes a little bit wider, and just ran a slant route over the middle for like 10 or 12 yards, like 3 snaps in a row, right? Wow. And without any kind of adjustment, with Travis Hunter, who's Colorado's best player, who's back from injury, and it was as much about it. Yes, he's this great player, and the story behind him is he's a sophomore. Last year he injured his ACL in training camp, and so didn't play all last year. And so the coaches and the players were all talking after the game, like, yes, they saw this in him. They knew that he was going to be a great player, and this is just this was his coming out kind of. But it was pretty amazing to watch. And he seems like a great kid. After the game, he has this otherworldly effort, and he said, "No, this was a team effort. This was about the team. This wasn't about me." And so he seems like he's a great kid too. So it was fun to watch.
Well, let's get into the overall discussion of Stanford. How do you feel about the program halfway through the season? Halfway through the first year of the Troy Taylor era, and what are your final thoughts on the David Shaw era?
Well, I'll start with David Shaw first. I think I was always his biggest fan, and when he walked away last year, it was I was really, really surprised and sad to see him go. I think I was watching the games also like everybody else, and so I saw the problems, and I saw what was that the program had clearly slipped, right? But I did feel like he still could, that he could still get it back. And then plus, he just had so much, he had built up so much equity with me because I went to 3 Rose Bowls, right? And so, and that's something that I never thought was possible or would have been possible. But Troy Taylor, I'm really excited about him. I like his just coaching philosophy, or his management philosophy, I guess. And watching these early games, a friend of mine texted me during the first half when things were at their bleakest, and he said, "Hey, I really like this scheme that Stanford's running." We were being serious, right? And I said, "Yeah, me too. I like what they're doing. There's just not enough talent there yet." But then things kind of came together. I think that there's, the biggest problem is the offensive line. Stanford lost 6 offensive linemen last year to the transfer portal, and 2 of them are starting right now at Michigan. 1 is starting right now at Oklahoma. And so these are legitimate players that it would be a completely different team if we had these guys. It's just an incredibly young group. And so I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing some development in these players, like the offensive line. I mean, again, Colorado's not a good defense, but there've been other. I mean, they looked much better. They looked much better, obviously, on Friday, and they're at a point now. It doesn't even really matter that it's a bad defense. What matters is that they had some success as an offense, and they were like the schemes look good. It's more creative than what we're used to seeing. I feel like the quarterback position, I think is still. I think a couple things happened, and Troy Taylor said this in his presser today. Someone asked him about, did he feel like he was getting in a groove as a play caller, because he's the offensive coordinator as well. He calls all the plays, and he said, no, I wasn't doing anything different. These guys were just making plays. These guys were playing really well, and so I don't expect that Ashton Daniels is gonna throw for 394 yards on Saturday like he did last weekend, but maybe he's getting some more confidence and making some better decisions, and he'll be better than he was earlier in the season. So I feel like this season's not going to end in a bowl game, but the expectation going in, and based on people I spoke with, within the program, was we didn't know what the record was going to be, but we knew that the team was going to be better than they were last year. Now, the problem is there's so much talent left that it's, how do you define better? Like, are they more? They're certainly not more talented than last year's team, but as far as execution and playmaking, things are going in the right direction, and I'm feeling really optimistic about what the next few years will bring. There's a really quality recruiting class that's on the way, and if they stick together and if they're admitted into school, then things will continue trending upward.
Obviously, there are some learning curves, and especially with a first-year coach and a lot of new players. What is it on defense? What have they struggled with the most this season so far?
I think really it's a lack of athleticism. I think that there are, and this has been going on with the Stanford defense for 2 or 3 years now. But when you look at, I mean, even on the defensive side of the ball, they lost a lot of, they lost guys to the portal, and they lost leadership, experience, and just ability, right? And what stands out a lot, and this is why the Colorado game was so perplexing, because watching the first half, it was really clear that there was just a huge disadvantage in athleticism. Colorado was getting guys out in space, and there was just nothing that the Stanford defense could do. But they are struggling a little bit with getting pressure on the quarterback. I think that's the biggest issue, because kind of the what we were looking for on Friday was like, okay, well, if we can't pressure the Colorado quarterback, this is Shedeur Sanders, I think, has more sacks than anybody in the conference, or has been sacked more times, right? Because the Stanford front hasn't really been able to scare anybody, and so then everything then trickles down, right? If the quarterback has all kinds of time, then you can't really do much of anything defensively, and so there was more blitzing on Friday, which helped. But there were even times, in some of the biggest moments, they were getting pressure on Sanders with just a four-man rush, and which then obviously makes everything easier. But I think it comes down to just the lack of experience and the lack of athleticism.
Well, to kind of springboard off of that, I wanted to ask you about Dante Moore, who has struggled a bit through his first 3 conference games. How do you feel about Stanford's ability to generate pressure against Moore in this game?
Are you saying that DTR is not the quarterback anymore? Like he's used up his eligibility?
Unfortunately, yes. We're very sad.
God, it's been like 7 years. Okay, so
that's what you felt about your dang winning streak. 11 freaking
years. So, I think that, like most teams, if confronted with, dual threat quarterbacks, is Dante Moore, is he running the ball? I don't even know.
No, he's not much of a runner.
Okay.
UCLA is running.
That's good news.
If DTR were like a 99 runner, Dante Moore so far has been like a 14 runner, right? I mean, that's on a 1 to 100 scale.
Okay, realistically, probably more like 78, but on video game scales.
Yeah, I think that if there's a quarterback who can extend plays, whether that means running or just extending, just moving the pocket, right? There's been trouble with that, because it's been difficult for Stanford's defensive backs to really stay with guys, and that's a struggle for any defensive backfield, but I think especially Stanford's.
300 yards receiving, notwithstanding. What has been what has the Cardinal done right on offense this year, and what has it done wrong, in your opinion?
There's been some confusing things, I think. One, the leading, the best returning player on offense was Ben Urosek, tight end Ben Urosek, and he, even last year was obviously a difficult season, but he was. He was the highlight. He was just he seemed to be the next great Stanford tight end. But this year, kind of surprisingly, he hasn't been used as nearly as much as we would have thought. And I think part of it was because the offensive line was, struggled so much. And that's something that, with UCLA's defensive front, like that's something that's a huge advantage for UCLA this weekend. So I think what was going on is they could never just rely on 5 offensive linemen to keep a pocket for the quarterback. So there would always be a running back in or a tight end in, and Ben Urosic because he's the most experienced tight end. He's also good at pass protection. And so I think that they kind of realized that, well, if he's out in the pattern, it doesn't matter if the quarterback's on his back. So he's just kind of been kept in a little bit more. So that's been one surprise. He's actually injured, and I don't know if he's going to play this Saturday or not. But the other thing is the running backs. Just the rotation of the running backs has been really. It almost seems like there's no rhyme or reason. That maybe there are things that are happening in practice that we're not aware of, because guys will get some looks and seem, it seems like they're doing well, but then they don't play the next game at all, right? And so there's, guys who are back from last year, like the leading rusher, through 6 games, the leading rusher is Casey Filkins with 206 yards in 6 games. And last week against Colorado, the top 2 leading rushers were the 2 quarterbacks that Stanford has been rotating. So the running game is not what we're used to seeing. And I know it's not because Troy Taylor is, it's not like he's running a run and shoot. Like, he wants to run the ball. He's talked about wanting to run the ball, but there hasn't been consistency. So you'll see Casey Filkins, you'll see EJ Smith, probably with some carries. There's a freshman, Cedric Irvin, who, again, one game had a ton of carries, and then the next game didn't have any. So there's just been inconsistency with what they're doing. And again, like on Friday, they're down by 29 points, so they're not looking to run the ball as much. But it's what they've done well. Like before Friday, they hadn't done a lot well on offense. There's not a, hopefully they've settled on a quarterback. Hopefully, throwing 4 touchdowns and 394 yards is enough to win you a quarterback's job, hopefully. But they've been, there's been 2 guys that they've been using. And today, when asked about that, Taylor he didn't say, yeah, Ashton Daniels won the job. He said, we're still preparing both quarterbacks. So I would expect that the second quarterback is Justin Lamson. He's a little bit more of a running quarterback. We'll still see him on Saturday, I'm sure. But my guess is that Daniels will be the primary guy.
Nice. Now, Hank, you've actually, with the Cardinal, they probably saw USC's best game of the year so far, right? That was a rough game in Game 2 for you guys. And then you've seen Oregon. You guys hosted Oregon a couple weeks ago, and that was a rough game for the Cardinal as well, probably expected. And then you had the great Colorado game. But you also had that game against Arizona, I think, before anybody knew that Arizona was going to be anything special at all. And you guys kind of went to the wire with them. What do you think of that? What do you think of Arizona so far, and what do you think of that game?
That game was – the thing about that game is watching it, because at that point in the season, going into the season, like I wasn't hoping for a Rose Bowl, hoping for a bowl game, right? I was hoping to see kind of improvements. I was hoping to see some signs that would give me hope for future years, right? So I caught some heat for this, and I kind of regret saying it, but like after Arizona, I kind of felt like I felt better about watching that loss than I did about watching the win, over Hawaii, that opening win.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they had played, they had played well, but I said that because I have unlimited eligibility as a fan, right? But these guys are, these players on a team, like they need wins, and obviously it would be better for them to win. And like I said, I regret making that tweet, but the Arizona game I think was, they easily could have won that game if things hadn't if a couple things had gone the right way for them, and because. Going in, like you're right, like Arizona, we didn't think was going to be really any good, and they've been a little bit better than that. But and now if we had won that game, if Stanford had won that game, there could be dreams of a bowl game. But I don't know how many wins are left on the schedule, really for Stanford.
Right. Now you're in this game this season where you're transitioning away from the Shire into the Taylor era. The conference is breaking up. What are your kind of final thoughts on this Pac-12 season as it's halfway through, but wrapping up the conference's history? You guys going to the ACC, taking Cal with you. Maybe someday we all return together, how it should be. But all these teams have been together forever, splitting up. What are your thoughts on all that?
When I guess it was the first week of the season when word broke that Stanford and Cal were going to the ACC, there was a lot of the main reaction I think at that time from Stanford fans was, "Oh, this is great. This is great." It's because it's just the least ridiculous of every option. Like, that's all it is. Like, all of this is stupid, and I think everybody knows that, right? Like, it was like, I understand why UCLA and USC left originally, but it's stupid that they did, right? It's stupid that Stanford and Cal are going to the ACC. It's all stupid. It's all money. Like, I know that all these schools are doing this for money. Stanford for sure is joining the ACC for for money that will keep the rest of their sports program viable. But it's just so much has been lost, and I think that because it was so awful, and because we're wondering about what's going to happen to the future of Stanford sports, then the ACC looked like a lifeline when maybe it's just an anchor, and so but like you said, I do, in the back of my mind, my hope is that after a year or two, like, all of these schools are going to realize, probably not the football coaches, but maybe the basketball and soccer and softball coaches are going to realize, like, hey, I can't recruit players anymore because they don't want to make these trips across the country. They don't want their season to be like a battle with their mental health, right? And maybe if something like that happens, where other voices are trying to speak the truth, maybe there'll be a Pac-12 again one day. I mean, because it's just the obvious. It's the obvious thing, right?
It's so silly.
And it's also really, I live down here in the area, in LA area, so it's sad to me. Like I went to the UCLA game last year, Stanford at UCLA, like, knowing that it was going to be an ugly game, but I also knew it might be my last football game in the Rose Bowl, right? I went to the USC game earlier this year, knowing that it was going to be even worse, and it was, just because it was probably the last time. I mean, I think that even if Stanford stays in the ACC, USC and UCLA stay in the Big Ten. I mean, I think that these schools are going to still play each other in the future, in some manner, right? It's just, you need games, and you need games that are not far away, both schools, right? So, but it's so unfortunate, and we're getting what we deserve, right? We finally have this great Pac-12 season, and where we've got Heisman candidates, we've got, there might be. Can you imagine, like, after being shut out of the playoffs for so many times, there could be 2 teams in the playoffs?
It's just so
from
silly.
the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate irony, right? That we've destroyed the conference, and it's in its last gasp. It's showing us all what we're going to be missing.
Well, you've been listening to the brutal intellect of Mr. Hank Waddles of GoMightyCard.com. Again, he's been a guest of ours for many years, and love having him on. And once again, you just gave just a ton of information. So thank you very much. And this is going to be sad to see. Always good to look forward to every year, except a certain stretch of 12 years. But we're not going to talk about that right now. But no, Hank, thank you once again for coming on. And are you going to the game this weekend?
I am not going to the game. It did occur to me that it would be fun to go, but no, I'm not going to be going. I will be watching. Either of you going up?
No. I'm going. Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm going
nice.
up. I have a daughter at Cal, so we're going to go there and root against
That's
the
right.
old Cardinal. So hopefully bring home a win, but we'll see.
Well, Hank, thank you
Very
very
good.
much, and you take care, sir. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Thank you so much.
It is always good to catch up with Hank. And Mike, with that being said, let's. What do you think? How do you think this game is going to go? And then, what's your prediction?
You know, I try to be positive, especially after the last three. I was just hoping that what happened in Utah and against Washington State, because they got better against Washington State. So I was hoping that would lead to another stepping stone, and it seemed like it was a step back. So I think UCLA is going to do just enough on offense while the defense does the majority of the work against Stanford. I'm going lower on my prediction and a smaller scoring margin. I think UCLA. What are they? Were they favored by 14 points? I believe something like that. Double digit.
17.
17. I don't have that. I have UCLA winning 24-18.
Oh, 24-18.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
What does Jamaal think?
Jamaal, and he says if UCLA does not win, he's never picking UCLA in a game again.
Wow.
And he's giving.
Well, you know where he comes from.
Suck it, Stanford.
Exactly. But he's giving
The Cal grad.
He's putting a lot behind UCLA. He's predicting a 42-14 win.
42-14?
Yeah.
I like the sound of that. Only I don't think Stanford's going to score 14 points.
Oh.
Look. I already talked about a lot on this podcast so far about the circumstances and how we got to where we're at, how we got to the Bruins being 4-2, and how they probably, if you play, they really should be 5-1. They should have won either the Utah game or the Oregon State game. But I think this team is better offensively than they showed this last week. I think Dante Moore is a better quarterback than he's shown in the first 3 games of the conference season. And I think that the next 2 games we will see that. I don't think he's broken, and I don't think he is not a good prospect. And I think that this will be a chance for him to kind of get off the schneid a little bit. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, also along the way with Chip Kelly protecting him in this game, at least to start, and taking advantage of what your advantages are. You're going to be able to run the ball on the Cardinal, I think. You're going to be able to pass the ball on the Cardinal, I think. But with that being said, I think the Bruins will win. I think the Bruins will win handily, even though the Cardinals coming off of their big, super epic comeback. I think the Bruins are going to be too much for them, defensively especially, and I think they'll score some points offensively. I think they're going to win 38-10.
Dang.
And did Bill send a prediction?
He did not, because he's a big jerk.
Yeah, and he had a rough weekend with the volleyball.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Was it a tournament situation?
Something like that. The way he described it to me was, he said, I had a real rough weekend. And I said, oh, yeah? I said, was it like logistical drama or team drama? And he said, both. So that's where our boy's at. And that's where, so that's okay. But with that being said, let's get to the listener feedback.
Didn't you say in your resume that you did 4 years at UCLA?
Yes. Technically, if you consider Bel Air an extension of the campus, which everybody does.
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins!
Go Bruins!
I'm happy that UCLA won.
I'm happy that UCLA won.
Go Bruins!
Of course, you can email us at whatsbruinshow@gmail.com. You can tweet us at whatsbruinshow. You can join the Patreon or join the Substack and message us on there on the Slack channel. And you can call the hotline, 805-399.
For WBS.
Second Ryan and Troy. See you tomorrow at dinner. We're going to Fogo de Chao. Eat some Brazilian barbecue.
Nice.
Let's go. Anywho, let's get the first call.
Hi, What's Bruin Show. This is Carrie Bruin. I wanted to comment on your last podcast.
Our newest subscriber.
Right after the game. And in particular, I really enjoyed Mike and Mike's call. It warmed my heart. It was so cute. And I think little Mike asked, how to deal with the loss. It's hard. And I think one of the things that I do is I pat myself on the back for being, such a loyal Bruin fan, and it can be hard. But, acknowledging
so hard.
The fact that you care is a big deal. And I think as you guys mentioned on the show, you can listen to the What's Bruin show. Just acknowledge that there's other Bruin fans that feel the same way that you do. You
Go
can
Bruins!
get on the Slack channel, which I recently did, And that's a great way to be around community and help process, losses like this. And another thing that I do is I just give a lot of love to the players. They are working their butts off to represent the school, and they want this win more than anybody, acknowledging that, And I find that if I can do that, I tend to process it better, and it doesn't turn into, angry rants, and it kind of grounds me more. So I'll throw that out there for little Mike, and I really thank them for calling, because it was it was a breath of fresh air. So thanks again for your podcast, and look forward to listening to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Carrie. We really appreciate that. And yeah, sometimes, and by the way, yeah, the Mike and Mike call was fun. It was good to have that. I did have to edit it quite a bit. So guys, tighten up your crap a little bit, right? But other than that,
We got limited time, people.
but other
We're
than
already
that,
going an hour and a half long.
very wise words from Carrie. And what I do to prevent, to kind of alleviate my Bruin pain is I do a podcast. So, I mean, you guys all want to make your own podcast. I found that I deal with losses so much better now that we have the What's Bruin show. And hopefully that helps you guys deal with your pain over the Bruins. But, at the end of the day, something that unites us all is that sometimes it really is hard to be a Bruin.
Sometimes it's hard to be a Bruin. Giving all your love to just one team.
Mike, when we first came up with that, we threatened to do a full-length version of that. And it's still on the
I've
back burner.
been thinking
I've
about
thought about it over the years, but maybe we
about
should come back to that at some point.
Yeah.
We'll see how the rest of this year goes.
Yeah, we'll see what
If we go to the darkest timeline, like Seamus, Shame Dog, he's out there on the East Coast, predicting that we're going to go 1-5 the rest of the season. So God help us if that happens. But let's just hold our water a little bit. We'll probably feel better after the next couple of weeks. Let's get to the next call. Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Diego. They're joking around about Moore's name, but I'd like to make something of a more serious comment now. I think he's a bust, and I don't mean that entirely just because of what he's done so far in these conference games. It's because I think he's a spotty passer. I mean, I think he throws really good passes, but he also has shown the proclivity of missing wide open receivers. A lot of people love him because they think he has this huge upside potential. I think a lot of that is hubris, and it's based on the silly star rankings that 247 provides, which I think are garbage, except for the 5 stars. 5 stars are usually important players. 4 stars, 3 stars, you can mix and match. They're kind of meaningless. And anyway, but he's going to get better, but he's not going to lose the basic characteristics that we see in him today. So, I mean, DTR was an inaccurate passer and got a little better, but still was somewhat inaccurate. Much better runner than thrower. That was his personality, his talent. And I think more like all of his predecessors, Hundley never could read defenses. Still can't. Probably he's still playing. Rosen played hero ball. They never got that out of him. Probably limited his pro career. So these tendencies tend to stay. So I don't see the reason I'm saying we got to do something about Moore is not so much because of the disappointments he's had so far, but it's because I just don't see this magical upside that everybody seems to see. I think in a couple of years, he'll be a good quarterback, but he'll still have some pretty significant problems. He'll still throw, in my view anyway, a lot of interceptions relative to other quarterbacks we've seen. The upside isn't quite there. We're feeling the downside. Now, here's the kicker. I don't think Chip's going to be around after next year because obviously this year now the ceiling for the team is probably the Holiday Bowl or some other consolation round a game. We've been out of the championship proximity for so many decades, people have forgotten what it's like. Chip's going to suffer from that because next year's team is going to be worse. We're going to lose most of the talent on the defense. We're still going to have a sputtering offense. Going into the Big Ten after one season of that, I don't think UCLA fans are going to have the energy to stay with this. So he'll leave, and then I think Dante leaves. So we're making this investment. Hey guys, Diego, sorry I got too windy there. I just wanted to finish up. I don't think we're going to get the upside or the potential out of Dante because I think he's going to go somewhere after Chip leaves. So Of course, it's all speculation. It could work completely differently. It could be the next Joe Montana. The Bruins could have a renaissance, blah, blah, blah. Don't see it happening, but could happen. So we're making a big investment in this kid, or I should say Chip is. And I really think Chip has bet his UCLA tenure on this. He could have gone with Garbers. That would have been the more conventional approach. He went with this person. And I think, then I'll be off your line and stop bothering you, but I think if we had played Garbers from the beginning, we'd be undefeated. I mean, that's a real likely possibility. I don't think Garbers would have had the same sort of disastrous turnovers. He'd have a few, of course, but he wouldn't have as many or as devastating a quality of turnovers that Moore has given us. So the team's a good team. If you just take Moore and improve his stat line, take away all those pick sixes, we win a lot of these games. I should say we win the two that we lost. So we could be undefeated looking at peaking towards the playoffs. But no, instead, we're mired back into sort of the second rung, and that's how expensive this guy is. Moore is a very, very expensive player right now, and I'm not talking about NIL. He's costing this program all of its upside as we struggle through his basically post-high school learning curve. So anyway, I'd love to see Garbers play. I don't think we'll see that. Schley is hurt. I don't know who's going to step in if Moore gets hurt. So be interesting to see how Chip handles all these problems. But effectively, Dante's a problem. He's not potential. All right. Have a good day, guys, and go Bruins.
Wow. I thought that Seamus was in a bad place. I thought the Mike Regalado from Bruin Report Online, I thought he was in a bad place.
Mike Regalado.
Oh, I'm just moody. I'm fine now. I'm good.
Oh my gosh, Diego is in the worst of all worst places, right? Diego,
Undead,
number one.
Undead.
Yeah, you got like 4 or 5 minutes, 2 calls on WBS this week, and I enjoy them. I enjoy every moment of them, by the way. And I completely understand your rationale. And I think the most potent logical thing you said is that if Chip had gone with Ethan to start the season, I think you're right. I think we are 6-0 at this point. And that's a real sad, shameful thing to think. But the problem is, and I said it earlier in the show, is that if you look at how the season played out and how that first game played out against, who did we play first, Mike? That's Coastal Carolina, right? You play that game and you see remember how Garber started that game,
yeah.
And then you go to Moore and he looks fantastic, and then we San Diego State and Moore looks even more fantastic, and then NC Central and he looks even more fantastic, right? I mean, it's all about, do you want more? How do you like it? So it's like, no, I agree with you completely, Diego. If he would have started Ethan, I think there's a very legitimate chance they are undefeated right now. But given the way the season actually unfolded, it's just a very low probability. I just don't see how you could have made that decision knowing what we know now, right?
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
It's hindsight.
So that's where my problem is with that. It's like, dude, we were in such a good place 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden the conference season hits us like a fucking Mike Tyson punch to the jaw.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, there's nobody that wants to get the stink of Jalen Phillips at UCLA off of the bro board for the top recruit of all time in UCLA history. These are the top recruits of all time in UCLA history: Jalen Phillips, Dante Moore, Cheeseburger Eddie Vanderdoes, Josh Rosen, Mike Juarez. Oh my God, Mike, where are you?
Wow.
Hey, Mickey! Where are you? Over here.
So, look, the top 5 Bruin recruits of all time, the most successful at this point, you'd have to say, is Cheeseburger Eddie.
Yeah.
Right? And the rest are, Josh Rosen certainly was a great Bruin for the season that he played. Jalen Phillips at UCLA, get out of here. He played half a season, got injured, and then went to Miami.
Just at UCLA.
Yeah,
okay,
just at UCLA.
Gotcha,
I don't want to talk about the hurricane part. F that. So anyways, the Bruin top 5 of all time is pretty disgraceful when you look at it as a whole, right? They're 5 stars, not been great, okay? But I am not there with Moore yet. I know Diego, it sounds like Diego is. I'm not there with Moore yet. And I think that, like I said, I still am having a little bit of cognitive dissonance over how he played against the lesser competition versus how he played in the conference season. And I think that Diego was talking about the accuracy and all that stuff. I still think he'll be plenty fine once he gets used to processing at the speed that they're at the NCAA level, at the Division I level. Now, whether he actually do that remains to be seen, but I think he can. I still have faith in that. So I'm still firmly in the more, how do you like it, Dante Moore camp. But I totally understand what Diego's saying, and I think it was very well put.
Yeah.
With that being said, we got a lot of calls. Let's get to the next call. Yeah. God, you guys call a lot. I love that. 805-399 for WBS.
I mean, we complained when they didn't, so might as well
enjoy it while they do.
Exactly.
What's the next call?
I'm probably late with the call for today's show, but this is Des calling from the dreaded Condom University. I just want to say, Mike, no more Smith, no more Morrissey, no more Cure songs. No golf, Mike, tonight, because I got a feeling that Chip was just sandbagging us, trying to, temper down our expectations, to turn around and go on an 8-game win streak to make this team a 10. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take that back. A 12-2 team this year going into Big Ten play next year. That's right. Des is calling it. We're winning the Pac-12 championship. We're going on an 8-game win streak, and it's going to be awesome. I might be on drugs. Who knows? Don't drug test me. But anyway, love you guys. Have a great show.
Talk about whiplash.
2 joints in the morning.
Oh, my gosh.
And then he smokes 2 more.
Hey, Des, we love you, right? We love you. But, I mean, that's whiplash, right? Going from Diego to Des, that's quite an extreme.
I love the listeners.
Des, I hope you're right.
I love the listeners.
All I can say is, Des, I hope you're right. We love you. Keep calling. Stay on the Slack channel.
See,
Des is a loyal subscriber.
We hit all angles here on the What's Bruin show.
Oh, good Lord. My Lord, have mercy. All right, good job. We got one more call, and it's our good man, Leo, here to talk about how he's going to see us in the desert, I think. Leo, what do you have to say loading today?
About things and stuff.
Hey, guys, this is Leo. I won't be addressing Saturday's game.
The darkness.
But I will be addressing coming up our game in Tucson. I'm excited. We're going to have a What's Bruin show out there.
That's right.
Reunion. Also excited to have a sold-out Rose Bowl for the Colorado game. That's
Tarp
it.
sold
Go
out.
Bruins.
Leo, that's great. I'll tell you this right now. I may or may not be at the Colorado game. I'm planning on being there, at least for part of it. But my wife has a Halloween party that she very much wants me to go to. And when I thought the game was at 7:30, I wasn't going to go at all. Now that the game's at 4:30, it looks like I can go, but I might have to leave early. So, Leo, you can't shame me for leaving the game early. Hopefully it's a Bruin blowout. Mike, if that game isn't a Bruin blowout against Colorado, I'm going to be pissed. But I'm going to have to leave early. Is it okay?
Fine.
Okay,
it's Halloween, bro.
All right, good.
Yeah, Halloween
but
weekend.
you're going to Arizona.
I am.
I'm going to Arizona.
You are.
Jamaal's already in Arizona.
He is.
And Leo's going to Arizona.
He will.
So keep your head on a swivel, Mike.
Yeah.
Leo might be lurking behind some corner. We'll see. But anyways, guys, thank you very much for calling and subscribing and listening. And do me a favor on YouTube or on Apple or whatever. Give us a nice review or whatever. That always helps. Or just, send us more positive feedback or whatever. Tell us that you like what we're doing because we need to feel pretty. But with that being said, Mike, it's the last part of the show. What's brewing with you?
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey, what's going on?
Well, what's brewing with me is the fact that since I turned old, I'm feeling old, Jake. I hate it.
Welcome to old age, Mike.
Okay, so I've had this thing with my elbow, and it has been.
Is it tennis elbow?
It's yes. It's. I've been self-diagnosed. I also asked some friends that are in the medical profession, just because, if it is, I researched it.
Wife of Cobra Nose?
Yes, exactly.
I love you, Amanda.
No, not Amanda. Another friend. I should call
Cobra Nose
as
another wife.
No.
He's a bigamist.
Another friend in the medical.
I need to text him.
Oh God, dear God. So yeah,
Mike just said you were a bigamist.
Oh dear God. Yeah, no, just like there. Here's my thing.
Yes.
I don't want to go to the doctor if they're just going to tell me.
You like paranoid, Mike? You're like one of those guys?
No, I'm not paranoid. I just don't want to waste my time and my money. If it's something that if they're going to say, "Oh, get some rest and take some aspirin,"
Yeah.
I don't need to go to the goddamn doctor for that. If it's like, you need, this thing is like split in half, and you need surgery right now, then I'll think about going.
Mike,
to the
I
doctor.
went to the doctor this last week, urgent
Uh-huh.
care, because I thought I might have something wrong with my kidneys or a kidney stone or some
Oh, dear God.
worst nightmare. Turns out I don't.
You've had the
and I was
worst
all good.
week, Jake.
And
Dear
they gave
God.
me ibuprofen, and they're like, okay, it's all good, and I've felt great ever since.
Oh, that's good.
I had a psychosomatic kidney pain. Turns out.
Yeah, Bruins will do that to you.
Yeah, they will.
Anyway, so that's like
Sometimes
just
it's
one
hard.
thing, and it's like, God, one of my favorite things in the world is sleeping. Like I love sleeping for like 8-10 hours when I can. Oh my God, Cobra Nose would make fun of me.
That's great.
During college, where he would say, I didn't sleep during the week, and I would save it up for the weekend. And literally, there were times where I'd like wake up at like 12, 1, 2.
Comatose?
Yeah, exactly. Just sleeping, resting, relaxing the body. I've always been, that has always been a big thing with me. Getting older, sleeping is starting to hurt. And I don't like it.
Oh, you wake up and you got like
yes, my
pain?
shoulder hurts or my leg hurts. I'm like, what the is this,
That'll
man?
do it to you.
What the hell? Like, oh God, getting older sucks. I've always liked getting older. I've always liked the thought of, getting more mature and stuff like that. F that, bro. I'm out. I'm done. Okay, I'm not really done. I'm not dying and I'm not thinking that way. But I kind of want to.
You gonna fall on your sword, Mike?
Kind of. No.
All right, good. I hope not.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, getting older
Life is
sucks.
for the living, Mike.
But at the same time, I do like going
Mike.
out and traveling and adventuring and stuff like that, and
Teenage suicide.
giving hope.
Don't do it.
I'm way past that.
Oh, okay.
I'm way past that.
You watch Heathers, right? Come on.
Oh
Great song.
yeah. But no, getting old sucks. But
really does.
other than that, nothing extravagant, going on. Just really busy. Just really busy.
I feel
and
you.
So what's brewing with you?
Nothing. Traveling sucks. Although I love traveling, but it sucks.
Yeah.
And I've gotten jammed up in the last month just on you book a hotel, and it's like it's a few dollars cheaper to just book the hotel right now, and it's says non-refundable. But if you would have had the forethought to just book it for $10 more, and you would have flexibility, and then your plans change. That's a shame. I hate that. It seems pretty arbitrary to me, and I've gotten burned by that. And I don't want to get too much more detail into that, but I'm a little pissed off about that.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of traveling coming up. I'm going to Berkeley this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up Megan with Malcolm. We're going to go see the Stanford game at the farm. That'll be fun. And then in a couple weeks, I'm going to go with you.
Mhm.
We're going out there. We'll meet out there to see the Zone of Zones in a game that a few weeks ago I thought was a really good chance for the Bruins to do well in Tucson.
Yeah.
Even though I've gone to more losses than wins out there in that godforsaken town, and now the Bruins beat Washington State, and then
This
Arizona
looks
State
like
beats them even worse. What the hell's going on?
Oh my God, that was.
We're going there for a bloodletting. This is going to be bad.
God,
So, anyways, we're going to Tucson.
just win, baby.
just win, baby. That's all I'm saying. I mean, God damn it, just win that game. And then after that, I'm going to Vegas for the National Public Safety Football League meeting. That'll be
Nice.
fun. But so there's a lot of travel on the books in the next few weeks. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I've just just wasted so much money on stupid shit in regards to traveling and having to change plans. It's pretty frustrating, Mike.
Yeah,
That's what's
I
wrong
get
with me.
you. I get you.
Along with a bunch of other shite that's going on. So whatever.
Exactly. All right, we're done.
And the Bruins can't goddamn win a goddamn game in Oregon State.
Yeah. 24 hours. Let it go.
Oh.
Goldfish. Be like a goldfish.
All right. I'm going to feel better on the farm in a few days. Okay. So thank you. It's another long show. Last week it got so long I split into two. If you're listening to this and this was a show that was split into two, understand that I didn't plan it that way.
Yeah.
I just
Could be 2 hours.
decided I was going to.
Could be 2 1 hours.
Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see how it comes out in the wash. But thank you for listening. Next week we'll come back. I will give you a Stanford postgame. I don't know how long it will be because I will be recording it live from Berkeley at that point.
Nice.
Probably to get it to you in a timely fashion. So it may or may not run long.
Yeah.
Or it may be short. I apologize in advance.
It happens.
So we'll see. But with that being said, listen to the postgame on Sunday morning. Come back, listen to us on Tuesday. Me and Mike, maybe Bill? Maybe?
We'll see.
We'll see.
He said every other week.
Maybe?
He's missed doing it.
Maybe. We'll see. But maybe Bill Shirley. But until next time, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And
go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, brah, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.